Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in today. My name is Zonzi, and I'm the host of the Discord Showcase AMA series. Today, we have a special guest coming from Socket, Mr. VC. How are you doing today?
All good, man. Thank you so much for having me here. Really excited to chat today.
Yeah, me too. It's a pleasure to have you here. I always like to kick this off by doing an introduction. So, why don't you tell us a bit about what your backstory is, what you were doing before crypto, what got you into crypto, and what ultimately got you involved with Socket?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I started like back in 17, 18, like a lot of us. Bitcoin was booming. I was still in college back then, trying to figure out what to do with my life. But yeah, Bitcoin for some reason really kind of stayed with me. I was still young enough that I wasn't able to open a bank account, but I could open a MetaMask account like just like that, and that felt pretty empowering. So yeah, I basically had a MetaMask account before I could have a bank account. So my journey started from there. Started like building on top of Ethereum before like when the first version of Solidity came out. So got to kind of hack around quite a bit. Then joined Polygon, which was back in the day called Matic, as one of the first hires here. I was leading the tech team here at Polygon. Working very closely with all the founders. We had a pretty small team initially, like I think like 15 people at most, including like everyone. Feels pretty good that it's grown so big since. I was leading and building like the network part, meaning the board chain, which is what people develop on, the Himdal chain, which validators run, things like that, right? So got to learn a lot. I was also pretty interested in rollups. So back in 2019, I built the first ZK rollup system, which today is like one of the leading technologies to scale public blockchains like Ethereum. After Polygon went on mainnet, I still wanted to double down on understanding on like increasing my personal understanding of the rollup space. So I was at Ethereum Foundation working with Vitalik and a few other researchers, trying to figure out, how can we build ETH2 better, or can we build a version of ETH2 that runs with rollups? Got to do like a bunch of interesting things there. But yeah, after building like Polygon POS, ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, I came to an understanding that we will see like a multi rollup future or like a multi-layer future, which I think is exactly what Polygon is also busy on executing, right? Polygon has multiple, different executing environments, I like to call it, Polygon POS, Polygon Hermes, Polygon Zero, things like that, right? And when we have all of these like different systems where people could build their apps on, uh, these people need bridges, right? Bridges are essentially the infrastructure that allows people to come to Polygon, right? So if we build all of these like amazing chains, amazing rollups, but we don't have good bridges, it all kind of goes to waste. So back in 2021, I decided to kind of like, work full time on bridging infrastructure. And that's basically how we started Socket.
Cool, cool. So, I gotta say it's an honor to meet an OG in the space, a pioneer such as yourself. I find it really funny how you're able to, you were using MetaMask before you were able to open a bank account. Um,
Yeah, that was fun.
you kind of answered my next questions, which are like when was Socket started and what inspired it, and what services does it provide. But yeah, so anyways, like how does Socket work? Like,
hmm Yeah, let me kind of dig a little bit deeper into those things, right? So Socket started with like a simple mission that, uh, people will develop on different layers for different reasons, right? And there exists like no infrastructure today that allows like a smart contract developer that's building on Polygon POS to interact with the smart contract that exists on Polygon Hermes, for example, right? And this would basically fragment the whole ecosystem, right? I would build like a DeFi app with 100 mil liquidity, let's say a DEX on Polygon Hermes, but you would build a DEX with 100 mil liquidity on Polygon POS, but since both of them cannot like interop or like communicate amongst each other, it would be kind of a waste, right? Because we would have 200 billion in liquidity, but the developers, the users at a single point in time are able to access only 100 mil, which is present on that particular chain, right? So socket essentially allows you to send data and value across chains. Value is like normal assets, ERC20, ETH, Matic, whatever. Data is basically kind of the infrastructure that allows like different smart contracts to communicate. For example, like even on Polygon or like any other EVM, whenever you do like cross smart contract calls, you are essentially trying to send data to some other contract, right? We just allow you to do that across chains, so you're not limiting to so you are not limited to just like building apps that are present on your chain, but you can also build apps that are present on other chains. That's the broad TLDR. We build out like a really good looking front end called Bungee on top of Socket's infrastructure, just to showcase what we are building towards. Because like the bridging UX right now sucks. I mean, like Polygon Bridge has done a pretty good job at UX, honestly, but all of the bridges suck. Like users are often like left out there wondering like where their funds are, things like that. And we are attempting to do like a better job at that with Bungee.
Yeah, I like it. You have like two mission statements on your front end that I really like: powering truly multi-chain apps and powering interoperability for everyone. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so um, I mean, you already kind of touched on this a bit. Like, you got a liquidity layer and a data layer. Um, so you're kind of explaining how you guys handle things compared to other systems I've seen where they have liquidity already existing on chains, and then um, you're able to use that to bridge. Why don't we just jump right into the a showcase of how this all works?
Mhm. Yeah, happy to. Like, I can do a quick screen share just to show like what Bungee looks like. How can people build like better onboarding for their Polygon applications from all other chains, so that if like a user is present on Binance, Avalanche, or any other chain, they can kind of bridge over efficiently, quickly, and all the good stuff, and kind of like start working with your application on Polygon. That's a good general direction.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, one sec. Let me figure out the streaming stuff. Maybe you guys can see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see it. Looks good.
Okay, sweet. Sweet, yeah. I have these two tabs open. If you just hit like bungee.exchange, or if you are in a bit of a rush, and you can just always, kind of go ahead and just do bridge.new, and that should redirect you to Bungee.exchange, right? So you don't even have to remember anything. Whenever you want to bridge, just do bridge.new and you should land right here, right? So the interface is like fairly simple, right? Your user is on Polygon. He wants to go to Ethereum, right? What's the asset that you want to bridge? USDC. How much? 100, right? And as soon as you kind of enter this, I'll just kind of show how things work when you enter things. I'll just do like 10,000 USDC, right? So as soon as you enter like 10,000 USDC, you'll be presented with all of these like different options to bridge, right? You could use a cross bridge that would give you, this much at the end. You could use hyphen that would, kind of give you this much. This is by default like sorted by highest return, but you can kind of like sort it by your bridging time, right? So if you sort it by bridging time, hyphen kind of comes at the top because they give you funds in 2 minutes instead of like across, which gives you in 15, hop which gives you in 10, any swap in 10, and so on, right? So there are these like different sorting filters. If you're very gas sensitive, let's say if you like flip it, from Ethereum to Polygon, but I want to move like 10,000 USDC from Ethereum to Polygon, now the gas fees becomes like substantial, right? And you might be gas sensitive. So you kind of like sort it via that, and yeah, there you go. So this is like the general flow, right? The good thing about this is like most of these bridges, they allow you to like kind of bridge like uh, Stables, ETH, or maybe Matic, right? But what you get with Bungee.exchange is you can move from any chain, any asset to any chain and any asset, right? We have a bunch of different chains available here. The UX, the UI kind of like is screwed up a bit. I have some extension that does not, do well to the CSS over here. But if you open it up on your end, it should look pretty good. We have a bunch of chains here. And yeah, let's try, kind of moving, let's say, what's your favorite asset, Let's say I want to move like 100 Aave from Ethereum to Polygon, and right? 100 Aave from Ethereum to USDC on Polygon. Fairly simple. Bungee allows you to like kind of swap and then do a bridge. So you don't have to go out there do a dex on find a dex, do a swap, come back to Bungee, do a bridge, then get to Polygon. You can instead do all of this in a single transaction just by visiting Bungee.exchange. Uh, I do have some more interesting stuff I want to get into, but I'll take a pause here in case you have any questions or anything I should highlight.
Yeah, I got two questions, and one thing I want to bring up, guys, if you have any questions for VC, there's a text channel called the voice chat text channel that's up just two from this one, and there's also now Discord added text channels right within the voice channel. You can use that one too. But yeah, so you mentioned that this is a front end that utilizes the socket infrastructure. So like
Mhm.
hypothetically, say I was a dApp, maybe I was Sushi Swap. Could I integrate socket into my front end?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what like folks at Zerion, folks at Zapper, they have already done. So if you go to Zapper and you go to this like bridge section, you are presented with this, and this is completely powered by socket. Similarly, if you go to Zerion, uh, let me go to Xeton on web. They also have a similar bridge that's completely powered by socket, right? A bunch of other people also have done this, and it's all kind of like listed on our kind of like website. Uh, if you want to build on top of socket, you just have to go here at docs, and you should find everything that is needed, to kind of build on top of socket, right? So it's like we have like APIs, we have widget, we have SDK, and it's usually fairly simple. People get done with it in like a couple of hours. So yeah, would definitely recommend people checking it out.
Okay, cool. Another thing I want to ask is, what is the criteria for deciding blockchains to integrate into socket?
Yeah, it's uh, there is no criteria as such. It just kind of depends on our ease of integration and how many people really want to bridge there. So the criteria is mostly, users asking us, hey man, I really like Socket, I really like Bungee, and there's this new chain which I really want to bridge to. Can you guys, kind of see and integrate that? Uh, Going forward, we are kind of like building infrastructure that would allow people to kind of integrate bridges or like chains, pretty seamlessly just by sending like a GitHub PR. But that's still kind of like work in progress.
Okay, cool.
Sweet. Let me show you guys something really cool from here, right? So, kind of taking the same example here, Aave on Ethereum, I want USDC on Polygon, right? Uh, Now, this takes like $36 in gas fees, and it gives you around like 6.6K USDC on Polygon, right? We have upcoming upgrade, which is currently hosted on multitx.bungee.exchange, that might allow you to do better than this, right? So I'll just do the same thing here. I want USDC, how much are we? 100, right? Uh, so yeah. Uh, Now this should give me, or like, this should give me ideally like a better output, or it will kind of like, route through other options that might not be available here. So the only difference between Bungee.exchange and multitx.bungee.exchange is, as the name says, it will take multiple transactions to do this instead of a single transaction over here, right? So On multi TX, you can go ahead and see that, okay, you know, if I want to do the same thing here, Aave on Ethereum to USDC on Polygon, Bungee allows you to swap, so your Aave gets swapped into DAI, your DAI gets bridged by a Polygon POS bridge, and once your assets kind of reach Polygon, they're swapped again, right, from DAI to USDC to give you what you want, right? So instead of like a swap happening on the source chain, here there's a swap happening on the source chain and then on the destination chain. So the routes are refreshed every 60 seconds. So that so by the time I came here, it's showing another route, right? It's saying, hey man, if you kind of like swap on Ethereum and then bridge via hop, it will give you like a better output, right? So it just kind of searches via uh, it just kind of like shows you more routes than possible here. But the only drawback is it would take like multiple transactions, which sometimes is not ideal. So we have it over here, and it's like undergoing some like beta testing with our existing users. We kind of like the objective of Bungee Exchange is to like provide the best bridging experience. So once we are satisfied, you would kind of move all of this stuff to the official Bungee.exchange. Uh, Two other things want to highlight. As soon as you kind of like select a route and you want to do like a bridge, you should be let me kind of start that screen. Let's say I want to bridge like 500 USDC from Polygon to Ethereum. I want to click proceed. You should be like kind of greeted with this screen, which will kind of start the whole process. You can at any point of time click this button, go to transactions. All of your transactions should be visible here. I've completed a bunch of transactions. I can find all of those here, click them, see what was up, source and destination transactions, all the basic things, right? Um, One thing that we kind of saw, um, which was a major problem for user onboarding, is that users like just like me kind of bridge USDC from one chain to the next, but often they don't have the money to pay for gas on Ethereum, for example. So if I bridge my USDC but I don't have money to pay for gas, what can I really do with it, right? So we built out Refuel. Refuel is a pretty simple tool that allows you to move like small amounts of native token on one chain to native token on another chain, right? So I could basically go ahead and say that I want to move, like 15 Matic from Polygon to ETH on Optimism. Just click this and it will do that. Boom, done. You never have to worry about not having gas to do transactions on a particular chain that you bridge to. You can always come to Bungee, do a refuel, and yeah, that's it. Sorry for the monologue there.
Oh, that's really fascinating. So essentially, if I don't have gas on Ethereum, I can just send some over from Polygon, and then I'll have gas money for gas fees.
Essentially, yeah. And this is like the cheapest bridge by far. It's like fully centralized, built by Socket team, and we have like a minimum and maximum limits, and that's why it's like essentially fast, cheap. We don't charge any fees, all the good stuff.
Is there any minimum amount limit for transfer? Like,
For refuel, yeah, because it depends, right? For example, like the minimum here is like 15 Matic because this is the equivalent of 15 Matic in ETH is the minimum amount you would need to do like 5 transactions on Optimism, right? So we have a minimum here because we don't want to kind of like run into cases where people bridge some amount of gas money, but that's not enough, right? Because that would definitely happen. So we have like a minimum and maximum here, but these are like fairly small amounts.
okay, and is there a minimum on the bridging, the transfers? Infinity is
Not
asking.
really, not really. It kind
Okay,
of like
cool.
depends on what do these bridges support, right?
All right. Is there a token issued by Socket?
We don't have a token issued by Socket at this point. There might be in the future with the data layer, which we are currently building. Uh, the token will be used to secure the data layer. The token will be used as part of staking. Token will be used to charge fees and a bunch of other interesting things. But no, we don't have a token out there. We are building towards it.
Okay. You previously mentioned there's like no fees right now. So are you, does the protocol currently earn revenue for you guys?
No, we like Socket liquidity layer does not earn any revenue. It's kind of like a meta bridge that we built as a public good for wallets, for developers, etc. When Socket data layer comes out, it will have a token that will be used to kind of compensate or kind of give as revenue to people running Socket's infrastructure. So that's when the protocol will start earning revenue. At this point, we are not charging anything. The protocol itself is making no revenue.
All right, cool. That's an awesome approach. I like that a lot. It reminds me of um, Web 2 companies like Uber and Airbnb who started off like really affordable to use, and then eventually they,
Yeah,
once they were massively adopted, they started,
yeah.
earning a little more revenue. But yeah, okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. We got a question coming in from Aditya. He says cross chain transactions on this scale usually cost a fortune. Um, how is Socket handling it on their back end?
Um, One sec. Let me look at the question again. Maybe I did not understand it correctly.
Oh, it was in the other channel. That's two up from this one.
Uh, the voice chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like cross-chain transactions cost like whatever it has to cost, you know. The cost usually comes from a couple of factors, right? The factors are like how expensive the gas fees is amongst the two chains that you're bridging to and from. Just to kind of illustrate that real quick here, right now we are kind of bridging from Polygon to Optimism, so the gas fee is like really, really small. But as soon as I kind of flip it, go from Ethereum to Polygon, and I try to, bridge like a larger amount, maybe the gas fee starts becoming bigger, like $6, $8, etc. We really cannot do anything about this apart from the fact that allow you to like kind of sort by gas fees, so that you can kind of see that hyphen will do the transfer in $6, whereas other will do like $8 or above, right? So our whole goal with the liquidity layer is to provide like a platform for people to build cheaper, safer bridges, and all of those bridges will be showcased and provided to the users on Bungee Exchange, right? So it's like a marketplace for bridges, right? We cannot really do anything about like how much do these bridges charge. All we can do is like provide visibility amongst like who is charging what, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. Another question that Infinity had was, have you guys been audited? I understand you guys are kind of aggregating other bridges all into one platform. So maybe is that part of the criteria you look for when you decide which bridges to include in your platform?
Yeah, I mean, uh, let me share like a couple of things here. First on like socket contracts. Socket contracts, they launched like 6 months ago or something, I think. So far, we've done like $600 million plus in volume. We we were the top application on Polygon, Ethereum, Optimism, Arbitrum like a week back. Like the most used the application which has seen the most amount of growth, things like that. It's like a bit about socket contracts. We audited it before releasing it. Uh, the contracts are built in an immutable and modular fashion, right? The What that means is like when you use Uniswap, you are not worried about like Uniswap developers, trying to rug you or something like that. Socket contracts are of that standard. Once we deploy these contracts, we hold no ownership of those, right? So we cannot like change these contracts and try to rug you or like try to do anything funny with it, right? So it's like completely on chain, completely immutable, all the good stuff like you expect from a company like Uniswap, for example. So that's a bit about socket contracts. Going towards like bridge security. I mean, we built Polygon POS bridge and a couple of other bridges, ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, all of the good things. So we have a fairly good idea about like how these bridges work, and we kind of evaluate them like pretty deeply before we start integrating them. We just released like a framework to evaluate different bridges with L2 Beat. You can check that out over here. So it's a pretty elaborate framework that allows us to evaluate like different security properties of each and every bridge that we integrate with. Would love if you guys, kind of check this out. So yeah, I think this speaks enough about like our approach at like contracts, what bridges to integrate, things like that.
Sweet. Yeah, we actually just had a Polygon Alpha podcast go out with one of the founders of L2 Beat. It's very interesting to listen
Nice,
to.
love
Um,
it.
cool. Um, you've answered so many of my questions already. Um,
Yeah.
so some of your key partnerships are Zapper, Zorion. Are there any other
Hmm.
key partnerships that you have going on right now, or key
Sure.
partnerships planned for the future? And how is the relationship there mutually beneficial?
Yeah. Let me kind of take that on real quick. So we have like a bunch of partnerships. We are like by far the most adopted bridge aggregator in this space. The closest competitor has like 5 times lower. So yeah, we've been like massively adopted by the time we got launched. Uh, so this is like the Zerion bridge. Go check it out. Go check out like Zapper's bridge. Um, we had like all of these kind of like listed on our website, if I'm not wrong. But these happen like fairly quickly, so we might be lagging there. But yeah, they do perpetual protocol, things like that. On the upcoming integrations, um, I don't want to drop alpha real quick, but we are getting integrated into like the top wallets in the space, things that you guys use every day. People in the US, everyone in the crypto ecosystem probably uses these wallets on a daily basis. We are hoping to get integrated into that like fairly quickly. We have a couple of big like DeFi announcements also coming out. Would love please like watch out on Twitter for all of these announcements. Um, our working relationships with these folks is like fairly good. Um, Generally speaking, like I think like back like 3 years ago, there were not a lot of people building wallets, right? Because like no one could think of like a way on how like wallets could have a revenue generating model or how they could actually make money by building wallets. So we only had like MetaMask, Rainbow. We also had Polygon. We're trying to build a wallet, but yeah, like a very few select teams, right? Um, but since like MetaMask started like charging fees for the swaps, people started to see that okay, once you build out a really good wallet and have a good amount of users, people will pay for convenience, and then you could charge them a fees. Uh, and I think now there are like a bunch of teams building a bunch of wallets, and yeah, we want to get into all of these wallets because all of these wallets have to be multi-chain by default, allow people to like manage their assets on Ethereum, on Polygon, Avalanche, Phantom, BSC, Solana, tons of chains. So they have to be like multi-chain by default. And if they don't have like a bridging infrastructure inside the wallet, the users are kind of like left out there in the open trying to figure out, how do I get my asset, uh, let's say USDC on Polygon to, USDC on Phantom or something like that, right? So it's like a pretty good, so Socket is like a pretty critical infrastructure for all of these like wallets, right? And we work very closely with them. We understand all the problems that they face with, and that basically kind of like dictates all the decisions that we make on Bungee Exchange as well, building towards like better bridging UX for like all the people that want to move like assets across chains.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's really exciting developments coming up in the future. Um, I
Yeah.
understand you can't give away too much alpha, but I appreciate you sharing the alpha that you did. Aditya is wondering a bit about how the socket protocol works. He's wondering if it's using Chainlink or another Oracle system, or was it built from the ground up? Like, perhaps you want to
But
dive a little deeper
yeah,
into the data and transaction layer.
yeah, sounds good. Yeah, this is like a pretty interesting discussion to be had. Let me start with the liquidity layer stuff. As you guys can see, right, like the liquidity layer kind of aggregates all third-party bridges and provides that in like a pretty simple, ready to integrate interfaces to provide like seamless like asset bridging, right? Uh, Once the data layer comes out, it will allow people to build more asset bridges, right? Different kind of bridges, like things like hop connects across like or like anything that allows you to move value should be able to people should be able to build all of these kinds of bridges on top of data layer, and all of these bridges will again be aggregated and presented to the users and developers under a single interface via the liquidity layer, right? uh, so this is how both the layers kind of like tie up, right? This is like part of it. The second part of it is if you're building anything cross chain, uh, which is how we started building the liquidity layer actually. You have to move like value and data across chains for like anything that you want to build, right? So let's say if you wanted to build like a yearn like system but in a multi-chain environment where let's say there's a protocol where you deposit like 100k USDC, and the goal of the protocol is to give you the maximum yield possible, not just on Ethereum, not just on Polygon, but across all chains, right? So the protocol would maximize your yield across a farm on Polygon, a farm on Ethereum, a farm on FTM, things like that, right? To build any such kind of protocol, you would want to like transfer data and value across chains, right? You would utilize the data layer if you want to like kind of find out how much APY is this particular protocol giving me on Ethereum, how much APY is this protocol giving me on Polygon, things like that. And once you have all of this information, you would distribute your 100k USDC into, let's say, 50k on Polygon or like 60k on Polygon and 40k on Ethereum, like depending, what the yields are, how you want to distribute, things like that. So this is why we have like two different layers on Socket because this is what developers would need. Uh, Coming to the data layer front, uh, we've built it in a pretty modular fashion, right? So this might be a bit confusing at first, but how Socket data layer is built, it makes no statements about security at all, right? We have instead moved all statements about security to the application layer, right? So it so if an application wants to use like Chainlink, they can simply like plug it in by just like writing like 30 lines of code or something like that. But what it allows is like anyone can build like any sort of like cross-chain application without thinking about security. And at the end, they can basically change like a few configuration parameters and have it as secure as Polygon native bridge. Or if they want it to be done like quickly and cheaply, they can switch from Polygon POS native bridge to something like Chainlink, right? So it's built in a pretty agnostic and modular fashion, right? So it's built from ground up, but you can switch to better alternatives if you want to switch, right? Yeah, I'll take a pause of that.
Sweet. Yeah, I think that was a great answer. It was very elaborate and in depth. I feel like, you know, there's so much that we could learn from you. I think we've all already learned a ton um, from you today. You're a very intelligent
Yeah,
individual. Um,
thank you so much, man. Would definitely love if like people hop onto our Discord channel as well. We can keep the conversation going there as well. Uh, we have like a bunch of documentation around this as well, how socket works, what's the data layer, things like that. So, do check it out. Ask questions, happy to answer anything.
yeah, definitely. We're gonna post all the links in the voice chat text channel for anyone who wants to follow up with you guys after this, in case anyone has questions that don't come to their mind now and they want to ask them afterwards. Um,
Sounds good.
yeah, and just to pick your brain a little, like, what are your thoughts on the current state of crypto? What's the bear market been like for you guys?
Yeah, yeah, that was yeah, I was part of like the last bear market as well. That's when Matic and Polygon started. So the previous like initial like 3 years were like pretty tough, but overall, like we are fairly well capitalized. We have like a really good team of like 15, 16 people building and like shipping like crazy. So it's kind of like a good time to build things. The market worries us not that much, but we kind of hope we don't lose all the users that we gained during the bear market. Oh, sorry, during the bull market. We really hope like people stick around, people don't like disregard crypto completely. But yeah, I think we are fairly optimistic that uh, things will remain good. We will keep shipping, and yeah, like who can kind of say anything about market cycles? Uh, we will just like kind of keep building good products, keep building good infrastructure. Whenever the time comes, things will shine. And this is like essential infrastructure for the next 5 years, right? So the market, definitely will have done like at least one more cycle by then, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool, hearing the thoughts of a OG slash pioneer. It's nothing new to
Nothing.
you. It's just, oh, here we go again. And yeah, I'm happy to hear that it hasn't affected you much. A lot of projects have gone underwater thanks to the current events. So yeah, I'm really happy for you and really happy to have you here too. It's phenomenal to have the opportunity to meet you. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Like this has been like super fun. I remember kind of like setting up this channel back in the day when I was like, setting up like early test nets for Polygon. And yeah, just like kind of answering questions. It was super fun. Really good to see like the community become so big. So many people building on top the infrastructure that we built like a few years back. That getting like global adoption, that's really amazing to see.
I can only imagine how funny it must be to have like built this Discord server and now be like coming back a few years later as a guest for an AMA. That's got to be an awesome feeling.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling for sure. No doubt.
Okay, guys. Well, we still got a couple minutes here. If anyone has some questions for VC while he's here, I highly encourage you to send them in. Otherwise, I think we're good to get wrapping things up. VC, is there anything else you want to talk about? Any narratives you want to share with us? Or
Yeah, nothing explicit, but the general idea is, guys, heading into the next bull run, or like whenever like retail folks want to think like crypto is sexy again, we need to build like better onboarding experiences, right? Right now the onboarding experiences of like asking your users to kind of uh, here's my app on Polygon, find out how to bridge here, find out how to get your assets over here to use my protocol on Polygon. That's in my humble opinion like pretty complicated for an end user who's just entering the space, right? So we need to build better products, better onboarding experience. The users should be able to go from his like bank account to his account on Avalanche, account on BSC, account on Phantom in a single transaction, the account on Polygon, and boom, start using your app on Polygon. So Socket essentially allows you to do things like that, and we are aggressively kind of like building tools that allow you to attract more liquidity on your app, no matter where it resides, right? So we are building things that allow your protocol to kind of like exist on Polygon, but allow app users on Optimism, Arbitrum, Starkware, ZK Sync to use your app on Polygon without ever actually bridging. They can stay there, but use the app on Polygon, right? So that's some like pretty cool stuff, pretty powerful stuff that we are building. And yeah, check it out. I think this is the way the whole kind of like ecosystem should move, and this is the way we'll reach to like a billion users.
Yeah, that was some alpha there. Thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for sharing all the wisdom you have with us today. I don't see any other questions coming in today, so I guess we're good to wrap things up. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out and tuning in. It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. Was a great conversation. Uh, Thank you so much, guys.
Anytime, you're always welcome back.
Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.